And we'll get started. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff Traub. I am the manager of customer success here at Email and Acid. I'm also joined by our digital marketing specialist, Allie Banks. Welcome to Splatfest, or the Splatfest platform webinar. Now, for some of you who might not be too sure of what Email and Acid is or what we do, we are a comprehensive and flexible automated email pre-deployment platform. Our goal is to help our customers deliver email perfection every single time, achieve efficiencies, improve marketing ROI, and protect brand reputation. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to review our main tools, but we'll really focus on our campaign PreCheck pre-deployment checklist, which includes all the features you need to deliver email perfection every single time. I will also go over the projects page and our foldering. One quick note, our basic subscription does not include all of the features that I will be reviewing today. Allie will share she'll share our plan information link in the chat so that you can take a closer look as to what's included with our basic or our premium, professional, and we also have an enterprise as well. So be sure to check that out so that you can compare those plans and see what best fits you. Before we get started, some housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please use the QA box in our Zoom toolbar. Allie and I will do our best to get to them. We'll also follow up on any more technical questions offline. One other thing regarding housekeeping, here in the Jackson Hole area, we did have a power outage earlier, which I was freaking out about, but the internet has been less than stable since the power came back online. So if there is a problem today, and knock on wood, there isn't, but if there's a problem, Allie will jump in and talk to you about sending out some past recordings or giving you guys the ability to join future webinars. Weekly webinars. We do the same webinar, this platform webinar, every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So you have other options if for whatever reason you have to jump or my internet decides to crash, which is possible, but hopefully not. We're being optimistic here. All right, so now that the introductions are out of the way and to help avoid distractions, I'm actually going to disable my camera so that we can all focus on the actual platform itself instead of looking at, well, I was going to say, I recently got a haircut, so we're gonna disable the camera so we can focus on the actual content. So let's see if I can figure out how to, there we go, stop my video. All right, so first thing what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a high level look at the platform layout. In the middle of the page, you have our campaign PreCheck start testing button. This is where we'll go to set up our project. All right, so we also have start buttons for the email editor and our analytics feature. So our editor allows you to code HTML from scratch or edit existing HTML. You can also run limited screenshot tests from the editor, which is really cool. You throw your code in there, you make adjustments, you run a quick test, etc. to see, make sure you're on the right track. Our analytics tool lets you track opens, engagement, URL clicks, and what device your subscribers are opening on, which is once again very valuable post-send information. The recent activity section is exactly what this implies. These are the projects we've been working on recently. So they all display here, which is a really nice, easy way to access stuff that you've been working on. If you say go to lunch and you come back and so forth. So recent activity is just, in fact, your recent activity. Working over here on the left side, we do have an expandable nav bar. At the very top, we have our projects page. The projects page is where all of your projects and campaigns live. So it's the recent activity might just be the things you were just working on, but the project page is where everything lives moving forward. We will take a deeper dive into the projects page after we run a campaign through campaign PreCheck. Email editor and analytics are just the same exact tools as we have right here, the editor and the analytics. Just two ways to get to the same place. I also want to point out our resources page. The resources page is a great place to go to get additional information, resources, right? You can come in here, we have templates, we have past webinar videos, white papers, tips and tricks. Just a really good place to go if you want some additional, maybe you want some ideas for setting up an email campaign or coding an email or so forth. We keep all of our additional resources in the resource section. So back to the main page, this nav bar does expand and collapse. I like it collapsed, it gives me more real estate here. Moving across the top, these are our more administrative functions. First, we have the bell icon. The bell icon is just system notifications. So if we are, in fact, here we go, mail.ru, previews are temporarily unavailable. There are some technical issues. So if you come in and you see that there's a number here, just know that there are some system notifications in the bell icon. Next to the bell icon, we have the help dropdown. Help dropdown includes the Help Center, which is where all of our help documentation is located. So if we get done at the end of this session and you think, oh my gosh, Jeff talks way too fast. What did he say again about accessibility? Well, you're in luck. Come into the Help Center. You can search accessibility or keywords, inbox preview, URL validation, what have you, any of the features we offer on the platform. And this will take you to all of our help documentation. So great place to come if you need additional resources. Also, on this dropdown, we do have our support option. This is where you go to enter a support ticket if you encounter any issues. So you open up support, you give them there's a box there that gives you the ability to add information. I always recommend adding original HTML, perhaps test share links, etc., just to help our support team. They are amazing. They'll get back to you very quickly, and they do a great job. But this is where you can go to add a support ticket. We also have a feedback option. Our platform, where we go as a platform, what tools we add our decisions are driven by user feedback, enhancement requests. So if you've come in here and you think, oh my gosh, the UI could do better here, or could you please add this particular client, please enter a feedback ticket, and it will go to our product team for consideration. Now, keep in mind, the product team, as you all know in this world, they have to weigh a lot of things when they're taking in these enhancements, but at least get it on the list so that they can take it under consideration. There may be dozens or hundreds or even thousands of other customers like yourself who have the same suggestion, which really helps us. Moving over, on the drop down next to the username, you have account settings. So the account settings, this is where you can go to update your username and your password. Plan information is where you go to manage your subscription. And finally, email test settings. So email test settings allow you to set different custom client testing profiles. So for example, let's say you have a campaign where you only want to return results for, say, mobile devices. You do have the ability to come in here and create a custom client testing profile so that when you run a test, you only see those previews. So this can save you a ton of time. Say let's say you are only interested in mobile profiles or mobile previews. Why sort through the other 70 client previews when you really only want to see the mobile ones? So I highly recommend leveraging custom client testing profiles. You can create as many as you like. You just come in and set them up, pick and choose which clients you want to see, and that's what you'll get back when you set up a test. So Ali, we just covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. Are there any platform layout specific questions before I jump into the tool?
Not yet.
Excellent. We are cruising. I love it. All right. So now that you're familiar with everything lives, let's actually jump into the campaign PreCheck pre-deployment checklist. So as I said before, you can start testing here, or you can also start over here. They both go to the same place. So we'll select start testing. Before we actually set this up, I think you might be asking, what is the Email on Acid pre-deployment checklist? So what it is a set of tools that allow you to review your pre-header text, address accessibility, validate your URLs, validate your images, spell check your email, check if you're blocklisted, spam test, and finally run an email test. So the power of Campaign PreCheck is that you don't have to be a developer or even know HTML to make corrections to your email. Corrections are automatically applied within the platform. Now, if you think about it, this is a huge time saver, or can be a huge time saver, since it allows you to QA and make corrections at the same exact time, which, if you think about it, this can help you avoid lost time going back and forth in and out of the platform, grabbing HTML, going to a developer, the developer fixes it or corrects it or changes it, bring the code back into the platform, QA again, and all that back and forth. So this can really save you a ton of time. But also what's really cool about the campaign, what the pre-deployment checklist is, you're covering all your other bases, the behind the scenes things that a preview is not going to show you. For instance, is a preview going to show you if your links don't work? No, it's not. Is a preview going to show you if you have your pre-header text in place, or if it's even the correct pre-header text? No, it's not. So the campaign PreCheck, the pre-deployment checklist, and all these features will give you a comprehensive 360-degree view of your entire email prior to deployment, not just how it displays on a device. So now that we're in the actual getting ready to set up a pre-deployment campaign, you do have some options. Now for today, I am going to cut and paste my HTML right into here. just because I'm here. But just know you do have the ability to send from your ESP as well. Just keep in mind, if you do send us your HTML from your ESP, you do at least once have to come in and grab these unique addresses. And in this case, this one, what these addresses do is it tells us which tools do you want to include in this particular workflow. Now in this workflow, this is full, so it's going to show all the tools. But we do have the ability to pick and choose. So for instance, let's say I just want to check deliverability. I do have the ability to set up a workflow that only shows or uses or leverages the deliverability tool. But note that it changes this address. So if you have a bunch of different workflows and you want to use the send from ESP, please be sure to come in and grab those addresses. Also keep in mind, you do have the ability to edit these workflows and create workflows. So we can pick and choose which features you use in this workflow. For the sake of today, of course, we're going to go through all of them. But the takeaway here is that this system and this all these features, it's flexible enough to meet whatever your organizational needs are. You know, you may just have a team that comes in and their sole purpose is to check inbox display. That's all they do. So you do have the ability to set up a custom workflow that only leverages that tool. So I'm going to close that, but we are going to go with the full workflow today. Let's see, I have to move my Zoom bar, which is in the way. So we're going to go with a full workflow, which leverages all of the tools. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm going to cut and paste my HTML right into the tool itself. So let me grab my HTML, copy, and I'm going to paste it. All right, so my HTML is in here. You want to give it a project name. So for today, we're just going to call it Splatfest. If I could spell Splatfest demo. We do have the ability for premium subscriptions and higher to add to folders, which is a great way to organize all your work. We'll look at folders here after we've gone through the entire workflow. And I already chose my workflow, which is a full workflow. So we are ready to go. I'm just going to select next. So now the system is analyzing the HTML, and we're going to jump into the tools. All right, we'll let this page load because it's looking at all the code. Before I actually look at the tool, I just wanted to let you know that this page right here is consistent throughout the workflow. This hamburger menu allows you to jump around within the workflow itself. So in this case, it's a full workflow. I have access to all the features. I don't have to go in order. I can jump around this particular workflow. Next, we have this source code button right here. So the source code allows you, so let's say you're a developer and you want to see the changes that we're making as they're being applied. You do have the ability to come here and watch the changes being applied. And I'll show this in action here in a minute. But keep in mind, you can see my cursor. I'm hitting my keyboard right now. This is not a manual email editor. We apply the code changes for you. If you need to manually make changes, I recommend using the email editor that we have on our platform. But this is more like a sanity check for developers, because sometimes you tell a developer you're changing their code, you know, they could have a meltdown because they're very proud. You know, they do good work, and
Hey,
so they
Jeff,
really yes.
We lost your screen share.
Oh, really? Oh, that's strange. I wonder how that happened. Let's try that again. Thanks, Allie. Let's. It probably happened when I went to move the toolbar.
Yep,
Awesome.
there you go.
Excellent. You can see it now? Perfect.
Yep.
All right, well, I think I stopped when I was still just showing you the code. So the source code. So it's a great way to come in and just make sure the changes we're applying are the changes you would expect. Next are images displayed or blocked. So this is a nice FYI. You know, this is how this particular email is going to display if Outlook, your subscriber opens on an Outlook device. We're not changing any code here, but it is nice to know, you know, what is this going to look like in those instances? Put it back. We also have a no color deficiency filter, so you can apply different filters with those who may have a color deficiency in mind. You know, so this is how my email or this particular email will display for somebody who might actually be colorblind. So good to know. If changes do need to be made to the image and so forth, you will have to, in this case, you would have to move it out of the tool to make adjustments. But at least, you know, this informs you so you know at the end of the day how this email will render in all instances. So I'm going to add no color deficiency, and then you do have the ability just to decide what size you want this display on as you go through the tool. I prefer the tablet just because it's a nice compromise between desktop and mobile and gives me a lot of working space over here on the left side. Excellent. All right. So finally, after all that, I just talked for 16 minutes and we haven't even gotten to the first tool yet. Well, we're about to get to the first tool. So the first tool in Campaign PreCheck is our inbox preview tool. It's a great way to see how your pre-header text, how it works or how it looks when compared to or next to your subject line and your sender name. So as you go through the tool, keep in mind, we do have these question marks. So if you're icons, so if you're wondering, why am I doing this? Why is it even important? Click on the question mark, you'll get some additional context. I use this all the time because, sometimes for some of the tools, like, oh wait, why is this important again? Well, we do have a further context information here with these question mark icons. First thing you want to do is give it a sender name. Now, the sender name's not in the code, so you have to add it here. Let's add a subject line. So tools for the toolbox, great. Now I already have my pre-header text coded in the email. Now in this case, this is from Christmas. So right off the bat, I know that there's a problem. So if you're using templates that are older and perhaps they have pre-header text already embedded in the code, which they should, if they're outdated, this is a great way, one, to figure that out, that there's a problem, and two, make this adjustment right here in the tool. So 50% off holiday special, well, that doesn't apply. So let's just go summer special maybe. And I'm going to add, because this is a huge deal, we're going to add a number of exclamation points to this. So now what I can do is come into the source code and see the change applied right here. And let's say, all right, well, wait, there's a 1 there actually, so I did mess that up. So let's just remove some of these. We apply the change right here in the code. So this is what I was talking about, the idea of QAing and correcting in one shot. You can do it all right here. So let's close the source code. And now that we have our sender name and subject line set up with our pre-header text, now I can come over here to the right and preview, how does this look? Let's say if somebody received this email in Outlook 2007 or Outlook 2013 and 2016. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I like that. Allie, I'm going to pause here because we've been covering a lot of ground. We've really been moving pretty quickly. Are there any questions regarding, up to this point, also including the inbox preview tool?
I do not see any right now.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's good to hear. So hopefully I'm covering all our bases. The next steps are our accessibility tools. So accessibility tools are designed with end users with visual impairments and color deficiencies in mind. So some government agencies, academic and financial organizations require that emails be designed to reach all users. Accessibility tools help meet this requirement. But the thing is, I always think whether your organization requires this or not, if you want to reach your entire subscription list, which I'm thinking you all do, accessibility should always be considered. If you think about it, up to 5% of the world's population suffers from some level of vision impairment. And that's a lot of users and users who may be missing your message. So much of the accessibility tools are focused on those who open your email using a screen reader. And we know that number is increasing daily. I mean, it's, 5 years ago, maybe screen readers weren't nearly used nearly as much, but people are using them all the time. Hey Siri, open my email. Uh-oh, actually, my phone may have just gone off reading my email, but it's happening much more often. So it's really important that you think about and focus on these accessibility items. The first thing we're going to check is, let's come in right here, is setting an email title. So if an email title is not already in place, or if you need to edit the existing title, you can do so here. Titles add more context to an email when subscribers use a screen reader. This tag also sets the title of the web page tab when viewing in a browser. So if we come here, for instance, just like the inbox preview, the title is right here. Let's say, I don't know why I'm so big on exclamation points, but I just applied the change. By making the change here on the left, the change is automatically applied to the code here on the right. Next is setting a content type. So content type tells an email client how to interpret the HTML and any special characters it contains. I can tell you right now, I don't think I've seen an email that was not UTF-8. So if our system detects it's UTF-8, it'll just default to that value. But I'm pretty confident that most of your emails are already written in UTF-8. Next is to set a language. Now keep in mind, this is not a translator. So for instance, this email here is in English. If I come over here and say, hey, I love Italian, this will not tell the screen reader to translate this email. what it's going to do is actually the screen reader is going to try to read English words in Italian, which won't come out very well. So you do want to set an English tag in this case. And there it is right here. Language equals English. I mean, most coders are already doing this stuff, but as you still want to go through this process to make sure, once again, you're covering all your bases. And it's such an easy, fast way to Q&A your email. It's going to take us much longer to talk about all the steps than it is to actually go through all the steps in a real world situation. I've gone through the whole thing or seen people going through the whole thing in less than 5 minutes. So moving on to the next piece of the accessibility is setting presentation tables or setting the presentation role to tables. So adding a presentation role to a table tells the screen reader to skip reading the code that creates a table and only read the customer-facing text. Without a presentation role, a screen reader could read table row, data table. See, I'm having trouble speaking. Table row, table data. What happens is the screen reader tries to read the code that creates the email or the table itself, which is not a very good end user experience. So as we come in here, like I noticed right here off the bat, obviously we do not have presentation roles set to any of these tables. I do have the ability to come in and pick and choose changes or apply that fix to all. And in this case, you're absolutely going to want to apply the fix you're going to want to apply a presentation role to all these tables that do not have client facing or customer facing text. So I can do it all in one big swoop. Next, as we work through accessibility, and I know we're moving really quickly, everybody, so I appreciate you guys hanging in there. Next is to remove title attributes. So title attributes give additional information about elements in your email. For example, like hover over tips. So if you see my cursor, we have this little hover over. These little modals actually disrupt screen readers. I don't see it as often in newly coded emails. I don't see title attributes used very often, but I absolutely see them widespread when a template's a couple of years old, especially if it's 4 or 5 years old, because that was a pretty common practice 4 or 5 years ago. But that's also before screen readers were widely used. Now that screen readers are being used so often, we highly recommend removing title attributes from all of your emails. So I'm going to remove it in one big swoop. I do have the ability to pick and choose, but now when I come over here with my cursor, you'll notice that little modal pop-up box is gone. All right, on to the next step, alt image. So alt text allows you to describe images to users with visual impairments as screen readers read the alt text. We recommend that for images that don't require text, that you add in a blank alt attribute. So what this does, it tells the screen reader not to read the image's URL path. So for example, the email and acid splat icon here, I don't think there's any reason to really add a description for what this is, but I do want to add this blank attribute. This, when the screen reader gets to this, it'll skip over it. Or let's say in this case, are you checking for blocked images? Well, that doesn't really describe this image very well. So maybe I'm just going to put in here dashboard or dartboard. Actually, let's do that. Dartboard. So now I just changed the alt text right here in the code. So once again, we get back to that QA and correct in one shot. If you came in, let's say you're QA testing and you find that you're missing alt values for all of your images, maybe your current process is then you have to export your HTML, go back to your developer, they fix it, they give it back to you. And we've already talked about this back and forth. This right here could save you hours, if not days, depending on your process. So it looks like we're good on alt text, which is great. Next is contrast ratio. So contrast ratio is the difference between foreground and background colors. This tool compares your email against the WCAG AA standards and makes suggestions. I always compare the WCAG standards to like the American with Disabilities Act, but in the email world. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare your images to make sure they meet those parameters, the AA standard parameters, and then allow you to adjust them right here. Now, what we do realize, and I hear this all the time, is when I'm talking to somebody, you may not have the creative license to come in here and say, I'm just going to change my customers' branded images. If you're working with Pepsi, call it Pepsi, or Coke or some big company, you can't just change their colors because they don't meet the standards. But what this can do is it can put you as the subject matter expert. You can then go back to your customer and say, we talk about accessibility a lot, but I don't know if you realize that your images are not meeting those AA standards, so we're missing people. And at least it can open up a bigger conversation around those images and meeting these standards. So whether or not you can fix them, or you have the power to fix them yourself or not, at least it can lead to a bigger conversation, which for me is always important, because I hear a lot of companies and corporations talking about, yeah, we want to be accessible, but we can't do X, Y, and Z. Well, first let's find out if you are accessible and then have a bigger discussion. So I'm going to adjust all. And this email wasn't too far out for foreground and background, so the changes were fairly minimal. Next is enhancing link accessibility. You want to make sure all of your links are underlined. Clickable links should be underlined, because if someone has a color deficiency, they may not be able to see a blue button, a red button, or a green button. But underlining a clickable link helps address this issue. And we've seen this in emails. Whenever you get an email, most links should be, or I really say all links should be underlined, but many of the emails I get, some links are sometimes underlined and others aren't. It's just good practice to make sure all of your links are underlined. So I'm going to apply this fix to all. And now my links have been underlined. Last but certainly not least is our zoom tool. This is really just a FYI. If I change this, it's not altering the code or the font size or anything in any way, but it is nice to know, how is my email going to look if, say, my mom opens my email 200% on her iPhone 8. If there is a problem, you will have to, like a lot of overlap, or sometimes maybe some of the letters may disappear when they're overlapping. But if there is a problem, this is an instance where you would have to pull the code out, go talk to your developer and get it adjusted. But once again, it's knowing at the end of the day how your email will render in all instances with all subscribers. Whew, we just covered a lot of ground with all the accessibility. Before we move on to URL validation, Ali, I'm going to pause a second. Are there any questions regarding any of the tools we just discussed?
Nope, not yet.
Excellent. All right, we are cruising. Next is URL validation. I mean, I'd love to know how everybody currently is checking their links in emails. Most often when I ask this question, the answer I get is, well, I send my email to Allie and she's at the other end of the office and she manually clicks through, eyeballs all the URL links to make sure they're good to go. Not a very efficient process. It's prone to error for sure. With our URL validation feature, you can check everything right here in the tool. You can also make changes if there's a problem. So let's take a look at it. I'm just going to say, we do give you the ability to upload spreadsheets if you're working off a spreadsheet, but for the sake of this demo, we're going to go without the spreadsheet. So now what our system's doing is it's looking at all the links and the URLs in the email itself. It's placing them in the order in which they appear in the email. You have the ability to preview this link right here. All right, that looks good. We can check the details, so any redirects, everything's looking great here. We also have the ability, if there was a problem, to edit this URL right here in the tool. So this one looks good, that looks good. Oh, here's a problem. So this link right here has a 500 server error. If I preview it, actually, I don't even know what this does if I preview it. I'm pretty sure it's not going to render or load. Yep, there's definitely a problem with that one. Let's look at the details. All right, so we're getting our 500 server error. Here's the URL. If you know what the problem is, you could change it here. If you don't know, at least you know there's a problem before you send this out to, say, 500,000 subscribers and you start hearing that links are broken. So this is that whole idea that I keep going back to, knowing how your email will render in all instances prior to deployment. So what I could do in this case is maybe I'd have to go back to the person responsible for hosting this URL, get it fixed, test it again, and then you know that you've covered all your bases. I'm not going to fix this one because it does come up a little bit later in the presentation. And this one's broken as well, but once again, at least we know that there's a problem. Excellent. So going from URL validation, we also have the ability to add Google Analytics. So if you already have Google parameters in your HTML, we do display them here so that you can make sure that's exactly how you want it set up. If you want to leverage Google Analytics, you do have the ability to add parameters within the tool itself, which is once again, it's that one-stop shop that allows you to add those UTM parameters right here. So I'm going to, in this case, just go next. And I'm going to pause again. Allie, any questions that I can address?
We had one come up. It says, I get link errors for Twitter, even though the link works. Am I doing something wrong?
Absolutely not, and that's an amazing question. So no, so you're going LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, because they require authentication, you're going to get errors with those. It doesn't mean there's a problem. It just means that because it's asking for authentication when that link is hit, that's the challenge. That's the problem. So that's absolutely common. So it's not necessarily a problem. It just means that our system is looking at it saying, oh, there's a problem because it's asking for that authentication. That's a good question. Thanks. Yeah, that comes up quite often. Anything else, Allie?
Nope.
Excellent. All right, so the next feature in the process is the image validator. I call this the, it's really our Outlook, our Outlook tools for images. You know, Outlook keeps us all in business. It also may have been the cause for me to lose all my hair as well. But but the next three tools we're going to look at really are focused on telling Outlook how to handle the images that are included in the email. First one is to make sure that there's a border and width assigned. So if you do not set a border, for instance, at least even if the value is 0, Outlook sometimes will do crazy things to your image. In fact, I know there's some older Outlook clients that'll add a blue border around images if you do not have even a value of 0. So we do recommend at least making sure 0 is there. With this tool, I generally, and most people I've talked to, just come in, they select fix all, which then just really makes sure that there's at least a 0 applied, saying to Outlook, hey, listen, hands off, the image is encoded exactly the way it's supposed to be. And these tools go pretty quick. The next one, we do have a GIF optimizer, or GIF, depending on, on how you pronounce this one. Unfortunately, once again, this is Outlook. Some older Outlook clients do not support animations. So what will happen is they'll come in and they'll select that first frame as a static image. So the pertinent information with this particular animation may be on frame 7. So we do give you the ability to define which frame will display as that first frame in the event that your customer is opening the email on does not support animations, and they show a static image. So it's that idea of control. So right here, I just defined frame 7 as number 1 as the first frame, so that Outlook will display this frame in that event. Hold on a second, I'm going to cough, so I need to mute myself for a second. All right, I'm back. A lot of talking. So once again, it's about control. Next with images is to optimize your images. To make sure, we recommend images are 200 kilobytes or less. If they're any larger, what will happen is it just takes too long to load the image, and you may lose your subscribers' attention. I know me personally, I have a very short attention span. You get these high resolution images, 4, 5, 10 seconds. You're really going to start losing engagement. So we recommend that images load in 2 seconds or less, which really is about 200 kilobytes or less. If we find an image, for instance, our dartboard is 264 kilobytes, that's not way above and beyond, but it is still nice to, we do recommend optimizing it. We compress the image for you. We then give you the image back at the end on the summary page, which we'll get to here in a moment. We also have the ability to check the details. So what are these load times on different devices? I mean, this image is coming in quick now, and everything else looks great. If an image far exceeds 200 kilobytes, like way out there, we're not going to compress it to the point of compromising the integrity of the image. We're going to get as close as we can, but we're not going to say, hey, listen, we're getting it down to 200 kilobytes or less at all costs. We're not going to do that, but we'll get you as close as we can. We also host these images if you do not want to reapply them to the code. I can tell you that in most instances, when I talk to customers, they prefer hosting the images themselves. So they'll grab the image compressed in the zip file that I give you at the end, but because they like that level of control. So Allie, it looks like there's a question. Is there a question I can address before we move on to the spell check and brand integrity feature?
Yeah, are you going to comment on previews?
Yes. So
are you going to demo commenting on previews? Sorry if that didn't make sense.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. It's funny because previews are what we've all been focused on, like for email testing. Most people just focus on previews, right? It's just, we're going to previews, we're going to preview, but it's really the last step in the whole process because you want to do all this behind the scenes stuff first. But yes, we absolutely, in 2 steps, we're in previews, and I'll also take a look at commenting and collaboration as well. Great question.
Cool.
Next, oh, go
One
ahead.
more just for you. How long are hosted images available for?
Oh, I'm trying to think. We may have to follow up on that one. I thought it was 3 years. It's quite a long time, probably much longer than the lifespan of that particular email, but we will have to get confirmation for sure.
Cool.
Excellent. All right, so let's look at this spell check and spam integrity checker. So nothing for me will negatively impact an email more than one with misspelled words. In fact, when I see misspelled words in an email, I automatically go to, this has got to be a phishing scam, even if it's not. So it's really important that your copy of the body and copy of your email are spell checked. So we will check the spelling. Keep in mind, this is US English only currently. We are working to expand the spell checker. So this one is, there it is right there. So spam is misspelled. So we do give you some suggestions. I'm going to change this one. PreCheck is actually our branded word. So I'm going to ignore this one. And we have what we call a brand integrity checker. So this is going to look for curse words, profanities in the email. This is an actual live real world example that I talked to a customer about. They missed the CNL in class, and this went out to way too many people. So we're gonna find this for you and allow you to fix it before it goes out to, like I said, maybe 500,000 people or whatever your subscriber list is. But obviously you want to make sure there are no profanities in your email. Excellent. All right. So now we've gone through all the tools up until we know that right now we have our pre-header text. We're accessible. We meet all those guidelines. Our links are working, or at least the ones that are broken. We know which ones have to be fixed. We know that our images have been optimized. We know there are no spelling errors or profanities. Next is to check our deliverability. So what we're first going to check is domain block listing. We're going to check the domains of the URLs against four block listing sites, and those are Spamhaus, URIBL domain checks, Fish Tank, and Google's transparency report. So we're going to check those four. And I don't know how many of you are actually doing block list testing right now, or I get mixed answers when I ask people, but you can do it. The takeaway here is you can do this super quickly, really fast right here in the tool. If there's a problem, we're going to show you. For instance, this is that broken link that I had in my URL. We do know this is block listed. So it looks here like Spamhaus is block listing this. Here's the code. Now, keep in mind, email and acid does not have the power to get you off the block list. But what we can do is, one, we're going to show you that you're block listed. Two, we have a link to their website where Spamhaus, in this instance, will walk you through the steps to get off of their block list. So once we know our links, the domains for our links are clean and good, then we want to do that spam check that you're all used to. Is the email going to be marked as spam, or is it going to make it into the inbox? So first, you want to give it a subject and tools for the toolbox. This is the subject line I'd be using if I were sending this email. And now we're going to run this against 22 spam filters. Now keep in mind, this does take a few minutes sometimes. I mean, it says up to 30 seconds. At the absolute most, it should take 2-3 minutes at the most. But keep in mind, we are running this against the actual spam filters themselves, and we are dependent on those results coming in. And what we're looking for is, does this email make it to the inbox, or does it not make it to the inbox? So we're starting to get some answers here already. Looks like we failed mail.com. And we have some pendings, and it looks like we've already passed a couple. Now, these are good. The Apple Mail ones are good. Now, something to note, and this is similar to the main block listing. These filters do not tell us why they marked this or view this email as potential spam. That's the whole point of those spam filters. If they told every scammer out there why the scammer wasn't making it to the inbox, that would defeat the purpose of the filter. There are some best practices obviously out there for deliverability that you'll want to follow, looking for spammy words, changing your subject line, etc. But at least, once again, this gets back to that end of the day, how is this email going to react, or how is it going to behave after deployment? So in this case, I mean, let's see how we're doing. We're still waiting for a few filters to come in. But once I at least armed with this information, I can decide, all right, do we need to make some changes, or are we looking good as far as this goes? I mean, I think 90% or more higher is generally pretty darn good. But
Hey, Jeff,
yep,
are those spam filters based on content?
they're absolutely based on content, yes. So if there are spammy words in the content, that can absolutely affect your deliverability. But once again, the spam filter, for instance, mail.com is not going to come to me and say, hey, listen, this word in your email is why we flagged it as spam. It unfortunately, as we all know, deliverability is one of the toughest things out there. It's a moving target. That's why there are whole organizations just focused on improving deliverability and acting as a like a resource helping you improve your deliverability. Any other questions, Allie, before I move on?
No, I did answer one about spell check, about adding words that we can't add currently. Like,
Yeah.
let's say your brand name or something like that.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Actually, I was going to bring that up, and then we were just moving along pretty fast. There's not unfortunately, as you move through that spell check tool, it doesn't create a library for you. So it doesn't remember, currently right now, it does not remember your selections from the past. It is a per instance type of a situation. That is absolutely with our product team, that request, because we do get that pretty much on every single demo. So thanks for bringing that up. That's a good point. All right, so moving on. So now we literally have done all the behind the scenes stuff, everything. So we know the stuff that isn't going to show in a preview. We've checked, we fixed some instances or some things. We've let some things go that we can address later. But now it's getting to the point where we're at the point where you want to look at those previews. How is this email going to display on my iPhone 8 or Outlook or so forth? First, you want to do is give it, we have the subject line already here. This is where you can select your custom client profiles, if you have any set up. Keep in mind, we do default to all clients, but in this case, you do have the ability to pick and choose. I'm just gonna use my iPhone custom client profile because we'd like these previews to come back, less to sort through. And we're gonna run the test. All right, so now the previews are coming in, and this is where we'll look at the commenting, the collaboration, and so forth. Excellent, so while these are coming in, I do wanna point out, you do have the ability to share or create a shareable link, so that I can actually share this link with anybody. So what I'm doing is I'm throwing this link in the chat. So you can share this link for this test with anyone, whether they have an email and asset account or not. It could be a stakeholder, it could be a customer, it could be a team member, et cetera. But you do have the ability to share this particular test with anyone. Let's pop into a preview. So let's look at this one. So here's the preview. We have the device borders. You have the ability to rotate it if you like. You do have the ability, and this is where the commenting comes into play. So you can add comments. So let's add this. Fix image. I know that's pretty vague, but I'm just trying to show the functionality. So any of you right now on this demo, you can access this test and actually comment, reply to this. You also have the ability to give it a thumbs up or say needs work. So let's say this one needs work because I do have comments associated with it. So now when somebody comes in, let's say I just shared this link with Allie. Let's say Allie's Allie's a stakeholder. And I say, hey, listen, Allie, I need you to take a look at this. This iPad Pro iOS 13 needs some work. Can you take a peek? Allie can then come in and either make comments, maybe correct the code and run it through again and give it a thumbs up. But the takeaway here is that you do have the ability to have a back and forth conversation with anybody who has that link, so that they can come in and check these screenshots, comment on them, and either approve or deny them based on your situation. And these guys seem to be loading fairly slowly today, but I don't know if that's my internet or if that's actually the platform, but we may be seeing a lot of volume today. Allie,
Hey,
before
Jeff,
yep,
a question for you. When you send to a seed list, does that actually check if the domain itself influences it, if it makes it to the inbox?
If you send to a seed list, can you restate the question? I'm trying to think of the context.
When you send to a seed list, does that actually check if the domain itself influences if it makes it to the inbox?
Good question. Okay, so Renee, when you say the seed list, are you referring to the seed list spam testing functionality that we also still offer? Okay, got it.
He's
So we
in
do
the
have,
spam checker.
yeah, so we do have current, so what I did not just show you is that in our deliverability testing, we do have a legacy spam testing tool which uses seed list functionality. When you send to a seed list, now I don't know about the domain, but I do know that when you use our seed list function for deliverability testing, it does check your IP reputation from the ESP from which you're sending that seed list. Oh, yeah, and that could, and Renee, actually, so if you got different results and you're wondering why, that could be part of it, of course, because the seed list, to be honest with you, the seed list is a little more comprehensive because currently right now it will check your IP reputation as well. So that could absolutely result in different results. It could give you different results. And I'd be happy to get on a call with you to talk this through more as follow-up if you like as well. Anything else, Ali, before I jump to the summary page?
No, I think you're good.
Excellent. All right, so the summary page, this is it. This is what I call the report card. This shows us everything we've done, some things that we did not do or maybe need to be addressed. You have on this page, you do have the ability to check the code side by side. So if you are a developer and you want to make sure we didn't mess anything up, this on the left is the original code. This on the right is the modified code. So you can go through and compare them side to side to make sure everything's as you would think it would be or should be. Back to the summary, you do have the ability to download the summary page. So if you want to share this with somebody, whether it's like I said, a stakeholder or maybe a supervisor or a team member, you also have the ability to download the assets. So what we're going to do here is give you a zip file once it comes up. And in this zip file, we're going to have your original HTML. This is how you get the HTML out of here. Your modified HTML, and then any JPEGs, any images or GIFs that we compressed or optimized. So we're going to give you everything back via zip file. So now we've done everything, right? We've gone through the whole step, all the steps. We've done all the behind the scenes stuff. We've run the previews and so forth. Now, where does this thing live after all of this? As I mentioned earlier, all of your campaigns, your projects, and so forth live in this project folder over here on the left. So when we come in here, this is going to show me everything I've done ever in the platform. So this also has my analytics campaigns and so forth. So here's our Splatfest demo. So this is where it lives moving forward. Now, for those of you who have a premium subscription or higher, we do also have foldering, the ability to create folders. And you can have subfolders based on the situation. This hypothetical, I set these up as offices, but these could be teams, these could be customers, these could be campaigns, whatever meets your specific need. But just know that the setting up folders is super flexible, to really allow you to customize, how you use them. I've seen big organizations use folders. If you have 200 users, it's kind of nice to have folders because you could have thousands of tests in here. I've also seen single users use folders to help organize everything. But it's really nice to have these folders to help, because once you get in there and start creating tests and campaigns and so forth, you literally could have from dozens to thousands in here. So it's nice to have a place where you can organize these in folders. We just went 50 minutes, pretty fast. I know we're starting. I mean, I've shown everything that there is to show, or at least that I have for today regarding the platform. Ali, I'm going to pause for a second. Are there any, before we wrap this up, are there any questions right now we can address? I'm sure there are probably some follow-up questions as well that we can take offline, but anything right now?
I don't see anything. Nope.
Excellent. All right. Well, I know you're all super busy. Have a lot going on, so I'm going to give you some time back, as they say. Oh, maybe there's one more question coming in, but awesome. If you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. You can enter a support ticket. You can say "Attention, Jeff" in that support ticket with a question. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to jump on follow-up calls as well. Whatever you guys need to be successful. I know your jobs are hard enough. So I do want to thank everyone for joining, and yeah, happy testing. Well, have a great week, everybody.